when you're leading project teams, especially when you're mentoring newer project managers, how do you help foster some of those key leadership qualities and skills like professionalism? Communication is a big one, transparency. What is your take on helping them with some of those leadership skills?
My core philosophy is to lead by example, always setting an example. When you have to realize that as a leader, that you're always being watched and you're always setting an example. Show respect to your team and to your coworkers, and understand that team members have other responsibilities and commitments.
How do you help project managers and project team members build their confidence and avoid burnout? In this episode, we're talking with Jenna Anderson, PMP, Senior Consultant and Group Lead at Parametrix. Jenna's going to talk about leadership behaviors that can foster trust, accountability, and build stronger teams. She's going to talk about how you can build systems that can keep your project teams aligned and keep clients satisfied, how she avoids burnout and helps others to do the same. Whether you're leading your first project or mentoring or growing a PM team, you'll take away practical strategies to lead with clarity, humility, and purpose. Now, before we jump in, I do want to tell you about our AEC PM Connect Event, built for project managers who want to improve project delivery, communication, and leadership through practical sessions and tools. These events provide an avenue to connect with leading PMs in the industry. Visit aecpmconnect.com and register today. We currently have events in Kansas City and New Jersey, and more coming soon. I'm your host, Anthony Fasano, and this is the AEC Project Management Podcast. All right, now I'd like to welcome our guest onto the show for today. Jenna Anderson is a licensed professional engineer, PMP. She's a senior consultant and group lead for Parametrix. She also serves as a trainer in their project delivery team. Jenna, welcome to the AEC PM podcast.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. And it's been a while ago I got to meet you at our AEC PM Connect event, but happy to reconnect here on the podcast. So, Jenna, can you start off by sharing a little bit about yourself and the journey that kind of led you to your current role as a senior consultant and group lead at Parametrix?
Yeah. So starting with my first job out of college, I graduated in May 2008. Thankfully, I had a job before I graduated because the job market was getting pretty tough, and some of my classmates had to, go to grad school because they couldn't find a job. I started as a transportation engineer in a consulting firm in Indiana. And I was learning about transportation and stormwater design, and spent a few years there getting comfortable with my engineering skills and building that foundation and feeling pretty confident in the work that I was doing. Thankfully, I didn't get laid off from the firm. So there was like a pretty hefty round of layoffs when I was there. So I was fortunate to not get laid off. In 2011, I was looking to move to the Seattle area for personal reasons. And the job market was still pretty tough. It was hard to find a job. So I had to broaden my search to the larger civil engineering world, and ended up getting a job that focused in water and sewer design. And I felt like I was starting from scratch, felt like being a freshman again in college, but starting from ground zero. Learned a lot, and it was a smaller company. So I was exposed to a lot of different elements of the business and of the project. So I got to experience permitting, and I got to go to client meetings a lot earlier than probably some of my peers in the industry, and helped with business development, project pursuits, and learned about more technical writing and project management, and also started supervising people. And while I was there, had a lot of great mentors while I was there, and they helped me understand the business of consulting firms as well. So I was just curious and learning the bigger picture of a project and the bigger picture of the consulting industry.
That's great. And I think that what you said there about the business side of consulting and of projects is really important. And sometimes consulting professionals, whether it's engineers or architects. It could also, even in the public sector, because we do some work with public organizations. I think understanding the
Hmm.
finance of projects, the business side of it, is so important to be able to be successful, whether you're going to manage big projects or not. I think it's just understanding it because it's so important. So let's talk a little bit about leading project teams. When you're leading project teams, especially when you're mentoring newer project managers, how do you help foster some of those key leadership qualities and skills like professionalism? Communication is a big one, transparency. What is your take on helping them with some of those leadership skills?
Hmm. Yeah. My core philosophy is to lead by example. So I'm always setting an example when you have to realize that as a leader, that you're always being watched and you're always setting an example. So the biggest thing is, show respect to your team and to your coworkers and understand that team members have other responsibilities and commitments outside of your project and outside of work. So respect what people, need to do. Control your emotions when you run into an issue on a project. Try to listen and understand the challenge and work together to find a solution without pointing fingers or blaming someone. Just realize that we're all in it together and we're going to get through it together. And for transparency and communication, just be accessible and have reoccurring check-in meetings with the project team. Be available to answer questions as they come up and provide guidance. And be humble about what you know. Like, I don't know everything, and so I can help you find somebody that can help you, or like we can research the problem together and just provide the team easy access to information too, on the servers, SharePoint or Teams, easy access.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think kind of what you said there, a big part of that was being emotionally intelligent, right? Like thinking about the other person, knowing that not the only thing they're doing is not just working on your project 24/7, right? So I think that is important as part of when you work on a team like that. And I also really like your philosophy of leading by example. I mean, I think as a project manager, as a project leader, as a leader in your organization, people are definitely going to look to you in terms of how you're performing, how you're communicating with stakeholders, right? Are you
Hmm.
getting things out on time? Are you reviewing your stuff? And I think that you're basically setting an example for people day in and day out. So that's a really good way to think about it. In the AEC industry, skilled project managers are the backbone of success. EMI's AEC PM certification offers tailored training, ongoing support, and exclusive access to premium content that keeps your team sharp and effective. From foundational training to advanced leadership tools, set your team apart with certified growth. Learn more at aecpm.com. That's aecpm.com. So when it comes to project management or just, growth for technical professionals in general, I think confidence is really important. And I'm wondering what mindset or actions have you found helpful in helping other PMs or other project team members kind of grow into confident, effective leaders themselves?
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Confidence is a tough one, and I struggle with it sometimes too. But what helps me is being informed and being organized. So bringing people along with me to meetings, getting them exposed to the client and informed about the project as a bigger picture. Also recognizing that, like, the people that I bring to meetings with the client, they know more about like the element of the project that they're designing. So give them the opportunity to speak up and talk about their design and ask questions to the client, give them a voice and get them engaged. And just realize that, like, it's great to have another person in the meeting so you have another perspective, and then also afterwards you have somebody that you can debrief and engage and involve the other team members and help bring them up in their career. Ask for their input, provide feedback, also show appreciation for what they bring to the table and to like the larger team. Realize that this is all a team effort and we can't deliver a good product or a good project to the client without everybody working together.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. And I think that it's important to communicate to your team members that the team's not going to work unless everyone's working together, right? We can't have
Mhm.
individuals on the team or an individual mindset. And I also think that is valuable because, to your point, if everyone understands that they're important, it can help to grow your confidence, right? I mean, I may be the youngest person on the team, the least experienced person on the team, but if my project manager is telling me that my role is important, I think that's going to help me to build my confidence. And I think
Hmm.
that getting your team members to do things like a quick presentation on a client call, right? Or maybe just observing you in a couple of meetings to build their confidence. Anything you could do to kind of build up that confidence can be very, very valuable, I think.
Right, right. And also, like, as you're developing a submittal afterwards, like, reflect on how it went and realize, like, what lessons you learned, what could be better, what went well, and then just keep refining. Like, we're always learning as we progress through projects in our career.
Yeah, that's great. Doing those lessons learned can be so invaluable at the end of your projects. That's great. So, Jenna, project management can become very overwhelming. There's a lots of different pieces on projects, especially larger projects. And of course, sometimes you're managing multiple projects. So, are there any systems or tools that you and your team kind of rely on to support project delivery and help you to stay coordinated and, communicate effectively both with your team members and with your clients?
Hmm. Yeah, lots of different things available. So, I guess internally or starting with documentation, Parametrix has a wide variety of templates that we can start with. So, within Microsoft Word or Excel and PowerPoint, we have Templify, and that has like project management plans, quality management plans, earned value, meeting agendas, like scope templates, issues and decisions logs. So it's a library that I pull from all the time. And if I, am realizing I need to document something on my projects, and I go through there and see what's available because it's always changing and always growing, and see what might be helpful to me as a project manager or to the team. For like collaboration, we have SharePoint, and that can be used for the team internally with sub-consultants, externally with clients or stakeholders. It's a really helpful tool to share information with everyone. And same with like project wise for having current up to date design files amongst the team, including the sub-consultants that are working on the team. Microsoft Teams and Bluebeam studio sessions for like QC reviews. It's really helpful. We have a Parametrics has a QC review toolbox set up that has all of your like standard colors and designations for like the initial reviewer, back check, verification, just to keep everything consistent and organized. So I'm really thankful for all the tools that we have set up to help us.
Yeah, I mean, Parametrics does a really good job. We've done a lot of work with Parametrics with PM development, PM training work, and they do a really good job of setting their PMs up for success through a lot of these templates
Hmm.
and some of these tools that can really create consistency across the organization. I know they do a really good job too with the project management planning ahead of projects, which is really important. And these are things that you can do to support your project managers by building out these tools, templates, ways for them to be consistent. And it's really important because as your company grows, it can be harder to drive consistency across your projects. But if you have a good library of templates or tools or a system that you're using, it's just going to make it easier. And we know in today's world, your company could acquire a small company, which means you add 10 or 20 project managers to your team quickly, or you're just constantly hiring and onboarding new PMs. And all of these things just make it easier to get people integrated into your operations and into your project successfully.
Definitely.
So, Jenna, let's talk a little bit about time management. Time management is a big one, especially for project managers. How do you approach time management when you're balancing multiple projects and responsibilities? And what helps you to maintain kind of healthy boundaries between, that work-life balance?
Yeah. So number one is to prioritize. There are always so many different tasks, like you're saying. So internally, I ask myself, which tasks do I need to focus on to keep the project moving forward or to meet the deadline? Is there somebody waiting for this information that, they're looking for work, or I just need to keep this moving forward? So those become my higher priority tasks. And obviously, if like a client comes and asks for something, that's becomes a high priority task too. So prioritizing work, if something's a low priority, then it gets pushed to the back of my list or it gets delegated to somebody else that has the time to work on it. And I'm just a planner by nature. So like my calendar is a really helpful tool for blocking out time for focus time. I don't want to be bogged down by meetings all the time. My priority tasks get built into my calendar so I don't lose sight of them and I'm dedicating time to it. And I also like have my out of office time on there because of like the responsibilities I have with my family and taking my kids to like appointments. I need to like communicate to the team when I'm available.
That's great. I mean, I think the time blocking on the calendar is probably one of the best strategies for time management because I think what happens in today's world is there's a lot of distractions.
Hmm.
And if you just say, I'm going to work on whatever comes my way today, you're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions. If you have a couple hours for project work on your calendar, and a couple hours for team meetings on your calendar, then in those time frames, you're going to focus on those things. And it could really help you to stay focused in a world with a lot of distractions. And when you're dealing with multiple projects, obviously things can become very complex. So I think the idea of time blocking and prioritizing is really, really important. And I highly recommend for all project managers to have a really good, like maybe you do your team meetings on Mondays or Tuesdays or whatever, client meetings and updates on another day, because it just can help you to really be much more streamlined in your efforts.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I'll look at my calendar and just see like I have regular reoccurring check-in meetings with different people on my teams. And some days it's just like, okay, this is just too many meetings. I need more focus time. Can we push this meeting to a different day so I can have a bigger chunk to like focus?
Yeah. And I think that's also very important, right? Like planning ahead. Like maybe sometimes on Fridays or Mondays, I'll take a look at the week ahead and see these two meetings are kind of close together. Maybe we need to space them out, or, I'm not going to be in this day. So maybe let me send a message to my team to let them know if I hate to review anything to get it to me the day before, right? Things like that can really help you in
Hmm.
terms of stress levels and communicating with people effectively.
Hmm.
So I know you work on a lot of transportation and utility projects for public agencies. I'm wondering if you could just describe for us maybe some of the bigger challenges on your types of projects and how you try to navigate them as a PM.
Yeah. Some of the bigger challenges are dealing with multiple stakeholders and property owners or just the general public. A lot of the time, those are like unknown variables. So the way I approach that, and typically the way the clients approach it too, is to be transparent and engage the community early, bring them along with you instead of, surprising them with, oh, the project's already developed and we're coming in to construct it. Like, bring people along with you. Another challenge is just unknown like site constraints. So you have to take the time to like go out in the field, do the site visit, investigate what's there, and then either adapt your design to that site condition or relocate the constraint so you can get your project in. And I think something that's universal to projects and challenges is just change. So changes from like scope and schedule and budget. Document the changes, discuss them with the client, and if it's a large enough change, then ask for that amendment to include it into the project.
That's great. Yeah, I think managing change is basically fundamental as a PM because it just happens every day in your
Hmm.
projects in one way, shape, or form. So, and it's not really something you can practice for. It's just something you probably kind of have to deal with and adapt to and get good at. I think the one thing to just kind of is to embrace it and be a little bit flexible,
Hmm.
because if you're very rigid as a PM, I think it's going to be a difficult road for you because there's just, like they say, the only constant is change. And I think that that's true in projects for sure. Jenna, what piece of advice can you share with our listeners that are project managers, but they do really want to grow into leaders in the AEC industry, just from your own leadership journey? What piece of advice could you share with them?
Yeah, I'd say, take advantage of the opportunities that are around you. Take advantage of the training. We have Parametrix has internal training with EMI and other programs. Go to industry trainings and learn more. Internally, if you're offered like an opportunity, then say yes to it and show your interest in the organization or in the industry and ask questions. If you're not being offered like opportunities that you're looking for, then ask for them, show that interest. And, as you're growing in your career and, you're establishing like your leadership and your reputation, it's great to say yes to things, but just be mindful that you also need to set boundaries. So it's a balance. Like You need to set the boundaries and take care of yourself because, you need to reduce the burnout that you feel in your career. And this is a long journey. So treat yourself well.
That's great. That's great advice. And I think leadership is one of those things that I think a lot of people get excited about. They get interested in, they want to become leaders in their careers. But to your point, Jenna, it's not an easy road. And so you have to be persistent, right? You have to really build that confidence that we talked about earlier, right? And I think really surround yourself with some really good mentors. Like you said, you had mentors as well. I think that's really important. All right. So I want to go into our kind of final question here, which we call the PM Pitfall question. What would you say is maybe the biggest pitfall that you see project managers fall into or deal with? And how would you recommend that they either overcome it or avoid it or just, deal with that challenge?
Yeah. So a big pitfall that I see is PMs trying to rush through the scoping phase and the budgeting phase. And you're just trying to turn something around really quickly because the client wants it. It's okay to ask for more time so you can fully understand the bigger picture, but take your time to define a scope with well-written assumptions and clear deliverables, clear tasks. Estimate an accurate budget that has room for flexibility for staff changes. It's going to happen on a project. You don't want to build your budget on, a junior staff being committed to the whole project. What if they're no longer available and you need to bring in a more senior staff? You need to have a little bit of wiggle room in your budget to accommodate those changes. And also ask for the discipline leads on your project to contribute to the scope and budget. It's great if they can draft their section of the scope and budget. And then as a PM, you can go through the whole compiled package, see what gaps there are, see where there's overlap, and just refine it and create that whole project picture. But also at the end, ask for people to review it. Get a QC review of your scope and your budget and your rates before it goes to the client. So it's a process, and it's really important to develop a clearly defined scope and budget for a project.
It's a great point. I mean, we spend almost an entire session on this in our PM development programs because if you do not scope your project accurately from the beginning, you're just going to be chasing your tail the entire project with change orders and extras because the scope wasn't clear. It can affect the contract type, right? If it's a very vague scope, you may want to try to do an hourly contract as opposed to a lump sum. Whereas if it's a very well-defined scope, you may be able to do a lump sum and actually make some good profit on that project. So again, I think it's a great piece of advice, and it is a huge pitfall, not clarifying your scope. And I think the idea of having someone or having a couple of people do a check on it for you, if you can get them to, is very valuable because they're going to probably see things that you don't see when you're so deep into details like that. I think scoping is such an important part of project management. So once again, Jenna Anderson. Jenna's a licensed professional engineer. She is a PMP, and she is a senior consultant and group lead at Parametrix and also serves as one of their instructors for their project delivery team. Jenna, thank you so much for spending some time with us today on the AEC PM podcast.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jenna. She is a great project manager in the industry. I've gotten to know her. And she did come to our AEC PM Connect event where I got to meet her in person. And she really gave some great advice in terms of building the team, mentoring others, and leading by example. If you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe to our channel here. We do put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help AEC professionals become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.